The saloon fell silent, the kind of silence that felt heavy, like judgment hanging in the air. Boots scraped against the wooden floor as the sheriff pointed his dusty finger at the line of women standing nervously before the crowd. "Cowboy," he said with a smirk, "you can have your pick. Any woman you want." The laughter that followed was cruel, echoing through the smoky room. Most men would have chosen the prettiest face in the room, the kind that made others jealous. But when the cowboy's piercing blue eyes moved down the line and stopped on the shy, heavy-set girl at the end, the one everyone ignored, no one expected what came next. He took a slow step forward, tipped his hat, and said in a voice so gentle it hushed even the laughter, "Her. I choose her." The room went still. And then, his next words made even the toughest hearts in that saloon melt. Martha had never been chosen, not once, not by anyone. At 26, she lived on the edge of Dust Creek, a town so small even the wind seemed to pass through without stopping. Her mother had died when she was a child, and her father, a drunk and a gambler, had long since vanished into the desert. Martha grew up working in the local inn, scrubbing floors while folks talked about her like she wasn't there. "She's too big to be pretty," they'd whisper. "Sweet girl, but no man'll ever want her." Each word cut her a little deeper, carving invisible scars no one saw. But still, she smiled, soft, patient, and kind. When travelers came, she'd fix their torn shirts, mend their boots, and give them water, asking for nothing in return. Kindness was all she had left to give, even if the world rarely gave it back. That night, the town gathered at Sheriff Dalton's saloon to celebrate a rare event, the return of Luke Tanner, the cowboy who had saved the town's cattle from rustlers a month back. Dust Creek adored him, tall, rugged, his face worn by the sun but eyes kind as the morning sky. The sheriff, drunk on whiskey and ego, clapped Luke on the back and said loud enough for all to hear, "After what you've done for this town, boy, you deserve a reward. Choose any woman you like tonight, any one of them." The men hollered. The women giggled nervously. And Martha, standing in the back, holding a tray of mugs, froze. Luke looked around the room, quiet and thoughtful. His gaze passed over the painted faces, the shimmering dresses, and then stopped. On her. She looked down quickly, cheeks burning, praying he hadn't noticed. But he had. He saw the kindness in her eyes, the strength in her silence. When he pointed at her, laughter rippled through the saloon like wildfire. "The big one. You kiddin', Tanner?" someone jeered. Luke walked toward her, slow and steady, boots thudding against the wooden floor. He stopped inches away, tipped his hat, and said softly, "I choose her, because she's the only one who didn't laugh when the sheriff made his cruel joke." The room fell silent. For the first time in her life, Martha was seen, not for how she looked, but for who she was. The following days were like a dream Martha didn't believe she deserved. Luke started showing up at the inn every morning, ordering black coffee, and staying longer than he needed to. He'd ask her about her day, her favorite books, her dreams. At first, she spoke little, afraid he was teasing her like everyone else. But he wasn't. Luke Tanner had known loneliness too. He'd grown up an orphan, wandering from ranch to ranch, always the outsider. When he saw Martha, he saw that same quiet ache, that same longing to belong somewhere. One evening, the sky broke open with rain, drenching the town. Martha was closing the inn when Luke appeared, soaked to the bone, holding a single wildflower. "I reckon you've never been asked to dance in the rain," he said with a smile. She laughed nervously. "Folks will stare." "Let him," he said, taking her hand. "They've been staring at you your whole life. Might as well give him something beautiful to look at." And so, under the downpour, they danced, awkward at first, then freely, like two souls shaking the dust off their hearts. The townsfolk watched from porches and windows as the cowboy spun the girl no one ever noticed, and for the first time, her laughter filled the air like music. That night, something changed in Dust Creek. People began to look at Martha differently. The same men who'd laughed before now tipped their hats respectfully. Women who had ignored her now smiled kindly. Kindness had bloomed in a place where cruelty once lived, all because one man had chosen to see beauty where others saw none. Months passed. Luke and Martha grew close, their bond deepened by shared pain and newfound hope. He told her he was leaving soon to work on a ranch up north, but he promised he'd return. The day before he left, tragedy struck. A fire broke out at the inn, trapping 3 travelers inside. Without thinking, Martha rushed in, her heavy frame pushing through smoke and flame, hauling one man after another to safety. When the fire finally died, she collapsed, coughing, her face blackened with soot. Luke found her by the well, trembling but alive. "Why'd you go back in?" he asked, voice breaking. She smiled weakly. "Because once, someone taught me that kindness can change everything, even when no one's watching." Tears filled his eyes as he pulled her close. "You changed me, Martha. You made this town remember what it means to care." When Luke left the next morning, the whole town gathered, not for him, but for her. They raised money to rebuild the inn, offered her food, clothes, help, not out of pity, but gratitude. A year later, Luke returned, just as he'd promised. But this time, he wasn't alone. He brought deeds to land, saying softly, "It's ours now." A place where no one gets left behind. They built a small ranch and turned it into a refuge for orphans, widows, and anyone who'd been forgotten. And on every wall, carved into the wood, were the words that had changed everything. Kindness is a choice, the bravest one there is. Sparkle's moral of the story. True beauty isn't found in faces or forms. It lives in the heart that dares to show kindness when no one else does.